Hey everyone, Old Head here with a special new mini-series or limited series. That's what they say these days on TV, right? It's a 5-part series that I have entitled Housefire 25. And it's not really an original or unique idea. It just has to do with, everybody's got those special things that they collect. In my case, it's the vinyl collection that you see behind me here. But if your house caught on fire and you can only save a certain number of these special things to you, which ones would you save? And I've been sitting on this idea for months now because I just couldn't decide on just 25 that I would want to save. So, but I'm finally there, and we're going to be doing 5 records an episode to, I don't know. It's content, people. I don't fucking know. Just to be clear, this is not like a desert island disc kind of thing. These aren't my 25 albums that I can't live without. This has to do with the specific vinyl pressings that I have, whether or not they're very special to me, limited edition, very unique, very expensive. Whatever. I just basically chose 25 that I feel like I would absolutely have to save in a house fire. And they're in no particular order, but we're going to be doing 5 per episode. So let's get started. All right, so to start things off, I thought we would just get the easiest one out of the way. So my favorite album of all time, Ride the Lightning from Metallica. This is a 1984 pressing, and I love it. It's my favorite album. I love this old school pressing. I love the ring wear. Oh man, it's beautiful. But this is, even though it's a 1984 pressing, it's actually considered a repress, because the original was just on can you see that, on Megaforce Records, but this one is also on Elektra, because originally it was just released on Megaforce, and then they did their deal with Elektra Records, the major label, and then the rest is history. So still from the OG year, but not a first press. I don't have that kind of money. I think I've shown this one off a couple times on my channel, so it's nothing new. But there's the inner sleeve. Printed inner sleeve. I don't know what the original inner sleeve on the Megaforce version looked like, but this one's very cool. The big difference is the label. The original first pressing had a silver Megaforce label. This one has the Elektra Records one with the Metallica logo in silver. It's pretty basic aside from the Metallica logo that they put on there. I always wonder if that was part of their deal with Elektra, because if you look at like bands, their first major label album back in the day, it was the most plain generic label. There was usually no printed inner sleeve. Sometimes it was an inner sleeve that had ads for other albums on the same label. But not Metallica, straight out of the gate. They got a printed inner sleeve. They got their logo on the label. This is a US pressing. Did I say that? It's a US pressing from 1984. So I don't remember what I paid for this record. Doesn't matter. I just love that I have it. It's my favorite album of all time, and it's an OG from 1984. So of course it's going to be in my Housefire 25. So I thought we'd just get that out of the way. Ride the Lightning. All right, up next, another pretty easy one for me. My favorite soundtrack of all time, Last Action Hero. I mean, just the track listing alone should give you an idea about why it's my favorite soundtrack. But this is a soundtrack that has never been repressed. This came out in 93. I think there may have been just a couple of other, in other countries, versions released also in 93, but this is a European pressing of this from 1993. And so at this point, this is the only way that you can get this sucker on vinyl. There's some pictures from the movie on the back, and then the track listing. No bells and whistles here, just a plain white inner sleeve. And then this is like, the kind of generic label that I'm talking about there. Just Columbia Records, basic ass label there. I'm pretty sure I did a whole Vinyl Thoughts video on this soundtrack, so you can find me talking about it a lot more. But I loved the soundtrack when it came out. I'm also a fan of the movie, but it is a soundtrack that 30 years later, I still enjoy every fucking second of it. And it's just, at this point, it's a really good time capsule of the shit that was going on in 1993, especially in Younghead's world. Once again, don't remember how much I paid for this. I don't remember how much I paid for anything. I don't know how people have that kind of memory. And my memory is all backed up with a bunch of other shit, so I don't remember prices. But I'm not rich, and I could afford it. So fuck, I don't know. As you can see, none of these are in like amazing shape. And honestly, for me, there's a price tag residue on it. I could probably just easily just take that off, but I haven't done it. And it looks like there's like some kind of like, can you see there's like a signature on the back? There you go. Can you see that right there? Oh, and you can see on here where people had circled, come on. You can see can you see the circles around the tracks? I don't know why they were circling them, but whatever. Either way, like when I get something like this, I'm just looking for a copy that is in good shape for me to play, and the cover is, all in one piece and isn't completely fucked up or water damaged. I mean, who knows if this is ever going to get repressed. If it is, I'll probably just fucking buy it again. All right, Last Action Hero. All right, this one is, for some people, lesser known, but very, very near and dear to my heart. A 1994 pressing of For Your Own Special Sweetheart from Jawbox. Jawbox, one of my favorite bands of all time. I don't know why they did not make it into my top 20 bands of all time. I don't think they did, which is why I put disclaimers at the bottom of all those things, like, expect this shit to change. So maybe I'll do a revised top 20 bands. Who the fuck cares? But anyway, this is a U.S. pressing from 1994, and the thing about this, first off, it's my favorite Jawbox album. It's one of my favorite albums ever made, but there's only 2 vinyl versions that have this cover. They both came out in 1994. The other one is a German pressing. So this cover, when they did repressings of it, they completely changed the cover, and I think they remastered it as well. And you all, some of you may know how I feel about remastering. It's unnecessary. An album sounds how it sounds. That's when I fell in love with it. You don't need to fuck with it. Now, if you want to release 2 versions at the same time, for those people that think that remastered is fucking cool, then they can go buy that one. And then the regular schmucks like me, they're just like, hey, I just like the album. I'd like to own it. And let us have a fucking regular one. And I'm really big on don't change the artwork. And so that's why I forked over whatever I paid for this version of it, because I like this artwork and I like the way it sounds on this. It's not a perfect sounding album by any stretch of the imagination, but I love how it sounds and what it is. Anyway, the album was actually released on Atlantic Records. It was their major label debut, but the vinyl version was put out on DeSoto Records, which was, I don't think it's still around, an indie label that was actually run by Kim Coletta from Jawbox. And this one doesn't have a printed inner sleeve, but it does have an insert. There you go. With that, some credits there, and then all the lyrics on the other side here. But yeah, basic white inner sleeve. I'm guessing, especially in 1994, there was a small group of people who were still collecting vinyl. And then flash forward 30 years later, and this dude is one of those people that's like, I'm glad you guys did this. Thank you. And I now own it. Anyway, if you're not aware of this band, just go listen to this album, because in my opinion, it's their best. Jawbox, For Your Own Special Sweetheart. All right, up next, we're just hanging out here in the early 90s for the rest of the episode here. 1992, Body Count, Cop Killer. The cover of the album later had the tattoo changed to just say Body Count, and the song Cop Killer that you see on the end of the track listing there, that was removed. It was considered bad. So much so that politicians were coming out against that fucking song. And so it was quickly removed on later pressings, and there are only 2 vinyl pressings that have Cop Killer here and on the track listing, and that is this one, which is a European pressing, and then the other one, which is a German pressing. Would that'd still be European, but I don't know, for some reason one is labeled as Europe and another one is labeled as Germany. But I got this album on cassette, the original Cop Killer version, when it came out. My older brother bought it for me at the time, and I loved it, and I still fucking love it. So it's just, like I said, with the Jawbox album, I want I want this. I want the original of the album. And I feel like it's never going to get repressed with Cop Killer on it, unless it's a bootleg. All right, let's look at the inner sleeve here. We got a good crowd photo there. Cool. Then on the back, we got lyrics, and then you got the band right there. And then, very basic, Sire Records. Anybody remember Sire Records? Are they even... They're not around anymore, I don't think. At least I haven't heard the fucking name Sire Records in a long time. Sure, they were bought out by somebody. Anyway, so needless to say, this is a special one to me that I would absolutely grab. Album rules. The song Cop Killer fucking rules. Get over yourself. All right. Body counts in the house. All right, wrapping it up here for the first episode of Housefire 25 with an absolute classic. And this pressing is kind of a mystery. So this is Facelift from Alice in Chains. So this album was originally released in 1990, and there are 1990 vinyl pressings, but they're not cheap. And so a big chunk of what I have in my collection I got through Discogs. And what I do on Discogs with something like this album that I really want, but it's not very cheap, is I'm able to add all these different pressings from back in the day onto my watch list. And then eventually somebody, if they decide to sell one for an affordable price, I'll snag it. And so this one is a pressing from Brazil from 1992. Or is it? Obviously, you're going off of whatever somebody entered in to Discogs. Sometimes there's ways to verify things, other times there's not. But sometimes you'll see comments from users who have this version or similar versions. And for this particular one, I saw that there was a bit of a back and forth on whether or not this was a bootleg or actually a 1990 pressing from Brazil, and there actually wasn't a 1992 pressing. Now, the date 1992 is nowhere on this pressing of this album. And from all accounts, the bootleg versions don't come with any kind of insert. This one has a printed insert with the lyrics. Just the lyrics. That's absolutely it. And then the record itself, you know, all the pressings are pretty bare bones anyway. And this one is extremely so. Columbia Records via Brazil. That was upside down, but you see instead of side, it even says lado 1. That means side, right? But there are some people that are saying that this is identical to their 1990 pressing from Brazil. And apparently at that time in Brazil, there were still a lot of records being pressed because there weren't very many people that had CD players at that point. Did I show you the back of it? You know, there you go. There's that iconic picture of the dudes there. And then there's another one right there, you know. How 90s? Like, which way does it go? I don't know. It's the 90s now. So, arguments aside for what version or pressing this is, it sounds great. It's not a short album and it's all put onto one disc, but to me, it sounds really good. For what it is, I have no complaints whatsoever. And at the time that I bought this, I did not think that Alice in Chains was going to be reissuing Facelift on vinyl. And if they did, I assumed that it would probably be remastered and they would probably fuck up the way that it sounded. They didn't, really. Like I have that version. It sounds fine. And really, at the end of the day, I would love to have every Alice in Chains album on an original vinyl from around the time. But that's pricey. I'm going to have to get 1 million more subscribers on here to start making that kind of money. So just, you know, share the shit out of this video, I guess. But at any rate, it is the only original Alice in Chains, well, original, whatever, back in the day vinyl from Alice in Chains that I own. So it goes in my Housefire 25. So there you have it, the first 5 of the Housefire 25. Like I said in the beginning of the video, these are not in any kind of order. I'm just choosing the 5 that I'm like, oh, I'd like to talk about those this time and trying to like make it kind of a good variety of shit. But we still got 20 more to go. And honestly, I'm still tweaking the list every fucking day. But I'll be back soon with part 2 of Housefire 25. I hope you enjoyed this. Please put some comments down below. Like and subscribe and share and do all those things. I appreciate you. You guys rule. Thank you for watching. And I will see you all again very soon.